On this episode of the Deadliest Warrior podcast, The Aftermath, we'll take on your questions and controversies over the nichest podcast on YouTube. What's the status of Back for Blood Season 2? There are segments that are not normal podcasts that we plan on doing and that are outdoors. If we could add one new position to the show, what would it be and why?
We're coming up with like the worst version of the show.
And finally, we answer our most asked questions submitted by viewers like you.
Jeff, Armand, Max, fuck, marry, kill.
For the answers to these questions, along with plenty more, stay tuned right here for The Aftermath. Welcome, everybody, to the Deadliest Warrior podcast, Aftermath Q&A. I'm your host today, I guess, Craig Taylor, joined by
Matt Davis.
And no one else.
Yeah, Lucas is on a top secret vacation right now, so you know.
Yeah, although
the people who care about the fans,
right?
You know.
Yeah, to be honest though, if he was here, would we invite him anyway?
Right? Yeah, I mean come on, dude is whack, yo.
Dude's whack. He's weak. He's cold. Okay.
I do want to start this off by saying Lucas sent me a Snapchat this morning. The hotel he was staying in, you know, hotels always have Bibles in them. On the front page of the hotel Bible, it had a Joe Dirt quote. It said, "Jesus loves you, Joe Dirt."
That's awesome.
So he sent that to me, and I was like,
that's something Lucas would write.
Right. Yeah. Right. But he's not one to deface stuff like that. So I do believe it was post-worthy because it was just completely random. I was like, right. That is a legendary find. He was like, I kind of want to steal it and take it home with me.
Not like stealing the Bible. It's
just stealing a Bible from a hotel.
Good souvenir. Well, so we wanted to do a quick Q&A, I guess you could call it. We did field questions on our community tab, and we gathered some stuff from our email as well. So appreciate those that responded and asked us questions. Nothing negative or serious, just for the record. Just answering some questions. Thought it'd be fun to update everybody because there have been some updates. So.
Jeff, Armand, Max, you gotta fuck one, marry one, kill one.
I was surprised that wasn't one of the questions. That would actually be difficult. So I guess the first thing, and we sort of touched on this a little bit, is the part of what we did a few months ago is we were all moving within 1 to 2 months. So me and Lucas didn't move very far. Matt moved very far, and we've been through that process, and we recorded the last 3 episodes. It was 6 episodes in 3 weeks or something crazy, just to get as much as we could in studio.
Yeah. So to provide further context, it was all it was kind of on a dime too for all of us. It energies aligned, and that's just how it worked out. I moved out of state, and Lucas got a house. That news came in around the same time that I told you guys I was moving, and then you had to get a new apartment, and it was all this stuff just lined up right with, oh, hey, we're starting season 3. And it was oh man. Okay. Yeah. So we really did, as my apartment is just getting stripped bare, kept the studio room intact to the last possible minute. Obviously you can see in the most recent videos, there's nothing in there. But we kept the table and the cameras and stuff set up just to record the last as many episodes as we could, basically, before the moves happened. And so it's been a couple months since we've recorded anything, and it feels good to be doing the Q&A. I do like it, but we're going to get back into the swing of things here. It was good that we recorded all that stuff to give us some padding in the meantime, because it's been very busy for all of us, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, and so it probably didn't seem like too much, but we were not recording those in real time. We recorded them out of order, all kinds of stuff. So, but now we're caught up officially, and pretty soon we'll be recording Pancho Villa. So, so that's the update with that. The other update for the channel would be Back for Blood Season 2. So I guess you could say teased it. At this point, it was a while ago. And
dude, we recorded that so long ago.
I think we referenced like Halloween in it. It might not, well, I shouldn't say it might not be out till next Halloween, but for the reason why it's taking so long, there are segments that are not normal podcasts that we plan on doing, and that are outdoors. So we're from Pennsylvania. It's not exactly like the Arctic, but the weather, is finally getting around there where it's consistently nice. So we're now able to do it outside. We kind of wanted to wait until Lucas moved into his new place because we'll have a lot of space to record there. The studio stuff, because there's obviously normal studio portions of that, the majority of it, that's actually all recorded and edited already and ready to go. It's just these extra scenes that we're doing. So they're just a little bit outside of our norm, but we are dedicated to executing it in its entirety. So that's just why it's taken so long.
Not to do the boring excuses thing, but basically, as the weather's turning better, all of us are moving, and there was no time essentially to get this footage filmed. We chose instead to go forward with the regular season 3 episodes, because we figured, hey, if we deliver Back for Blood late, that's not as big a deal as airing episode 1 of season 3 and then episode 2 not coming out for like 3 months. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like I was saying, now that we're all sort of settling into our new situations, I think we'll try to make some time here, make it happen, so that, believe me, Back for Blood season 2 is a passion project that I've wanted to do forever, and it was really fun to get to do it. So it is coming. It's just been very delayed.
Yeah. And I'm also kind of excited that the portions that we haven't filmed yet are going to be very outside our wheelhouse. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun to try to flex that muscle and see like what we can do with a new type of thing. I don't want to hype it too much. It's nothing revolutionary, but it's definitely something that's outside the norm, and will hopefully be worth the wait. Fingers crossed.
You like how with my background it looks like I have like antlers or something?
Yeah, I feel like my brain noticed that, but I hadn't yet.
Yeah, it's like, what are those? Are those like Kapingas or something like that?
I think. You know what I think those are? Those are the Ivan's thing that he balances his gun on. I think. I don't remember. I just edited that. I don't remember the name.
So
kind of looks like that.
So I can't really see it because my self view is like this big on my computer. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure because it's pretty long. Mine, I got. I got 3 esteemed Deadliest Warrior hosts.
Yeah, the brain trust, some might say.
Yeah, the brain trust and somebody else. But yeah, the one other minor note, because we're gonna get to viewer questions in a sec. I don't know how else to fit this in. We're always trying to upgrade production value here and there. I've been playing around with Adobe Creative Cloud stuff because I use Premiere, but I'm looking to kind of expand. And they have like their own, like, everyone's got an AI image generator. So I said, okay. Well, I was trying to think of stuff to put into it. I put the Deadliest Warrior podcast And the image, I'm going to put it up on screen, obviously. It's somehow beyond perfect for what this could be. Matt knows what it looks like, but I did want to share this. It doesn't like fit in a thumbnail or anything because it's the wrong size, but you guys have to see this. This is like the official symbol of the of the podcast, the Giga Chad.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, we do have some viewer questions that got left on channel update. You know, you made a post about this Q&A and we gave them 24 hours. So got some diehards here.
Yeah. Real quick too, before I forget, I want to make sure I want to thank everybody who emails us as well. So you send us tons of notes, and there's stuff that, at least in our initial run throughs, we didn't even notice. So if we did see your notes, we do incorporate them. So we appreciate anything you guys send us. And one particular one that I thought was really cool is friend of the show, El Alamein, had this really cool email. So he visited the Museum of Gold in Bogota, I think it's how you pronounce it, Colombia, and he found an exhibit on the Xenu people. That was very cool. Actually, they're this obscure tribe off of Colombia's Caribbean coast. It's actually who we're named after.
Right, yes.
Finally, someone figured it out.
That's where it comes from. We are descendants.
It's obscure indigenous Colombian...
Xenu descendants.
Yeah, Xenu descendants. We've been looking for a solid name for the viewers. Xenu descendants might be up there. But I wanted to share that. Thank you, Alamein. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. And shout out to The Real Shino and, of course, Flash Fox Full, who sent us plenty of emails about like notes on the episodes and the actors and things like that. We always reference that stuff and look over it. So pretty cool. Always good to hear from you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll roll right into the viewer questions. So I guess...
Which I purposely did not look at.
Right. So full disclosure, I have read the questions and like typed up answers, thought some stuff out. Craig wanted to go into this cold, just off the top of the head. So let's see how it goes here. So the first comment came from Weirzy, who's always got some funny stuff to say in the comments section. But Weirzy asks, why does the Robert Daly led season 3 suck balls? Sincerely, Max Geiger's mother. Also, do you think Vampires vs. Zombies episode basically signified the end of the show? Or do you think they could have made a season 4? So
I've a lot to say, at least about the second part. The first part, I would prefer to tackle this as to why Robert Daly sucks. Because the full diagnosis of season 3 will come, and I hesitate to provide my full input until all the dust has settled.
I have thoughts. I have thoughts I'd be okay with sharing.
Okay, sure.
So here's my explanation that I wrote. First and foremost, we're missing the computer whiz in season 3. Jokes aside, I do think Max makes for a better stand-in audience character. And I don't want to read this just word for word, but the general idea is, okay, Max acts as like the other hosts where they are acting on part of the viewer in that they are your gateway into the show and they're getting the information as you're getting it, right? And so the way they're reacting to things is supposed to be, it's what the writers and the producers want you to be reacting to certain things. Like, I thought this guy had it in the bag, but then I saw that, axe cut through that steel helmet. Robert Daly is like a fourth wall break every time he shows up. I think I described him in my notes as I described him as an antagonistic demiurge on the show, because he's not present for any of the tests or anything like that. He really is there to come in, for very small segments of the show and be like, right, so I don't know what you losers have been watching, but my team of experts and my supercomputer, which I'm the only one smart enough to run and understand, this is what they're telling us. And you kind of just need to go with it.
Yeah.
You know, like you kind of got to take Robert Daly's word for it on certain things. And while Max was technically the deadliest warrior in that he put the data into the sim, it, at least with the way the show's presenting it, because in reality, right, it's the producers who are deciding the outcomes that are, you know, but, and that's no different from season 3 than it is from the other seasons. But the way it's written is Max is a type of character who is sort of almost naively, to a degree, going through as an audience stand-in and learning about these warriors and plugging them into the computer, and then at the end of the show being like, well, you know, I'm really surprised, but I plugged it into my computer and this is what I got.
Yeah.
You know, and
it's interesting.
Yeah.
I think you touched on something I never thought about before. I think what's missing with Max, and Max was a huge, no jokes aside, I think he was a huge loss for the show, is this almost Mythbusters type tone. And what I mean by that is with Mythbusters, you know, you have the myth and they're discovering it along with you and learning along with you, basically. It almost feels like a Deadliest Warrior season 3 that they have all the answers, or that like there's not like that discovery, or at least doesn't feel like that discovery. Like they obviously, you know, the tests, I guess they're learning, but that feeling is missing. And I feel like Max helped coordinate, you know, that and create that. Mm-hmm. And we talk about him being like the quote unquote main character.
Yeah.
And he kind of is. And I think that's something he added. I mean, obviously he was very knowledgeable about this type of stuff. But that's, I think, the vibe that he added that was removed.
Yeah. And I think from what we've seen in season 3, I suppose Jeff takes this role as well, but I've really noticed it in Dorian. Like that Dorian has been the one for the episodes he's not checked out on, you know, which is understandable because he's got like a real job, you know, like, for the episodes he's not checked out on, like he is the one that seems to always be like trying to ask the questions, I guess, or at least feign a kind of like, so tell me about that, you know, like that's really interesting. Whereas Mac, who I guess is, I don't know, like Mac and Robert Daly both replaced Max, I guess, but like Mac, you know, he's supposed to fill the role of like the credible warrior, I guess.
You know,
like,
what would have been great,
you know what I mean?
And I don't know if Deadliest Warrior had enough time in the program for this, but if they just added Mac along with Max, I think that could have helped a lot, because the role that Mac fills that's new, or doesn't really fill, he adds, is I think his chalk talk, battle board, whatever you want to call it, I think that is a good addition, in that he's asking these historical experts to break down battle strategies in very simple terms, which is important. You know, that should be a part of the show, is educating on these warriors. And can you give us a bite-sized sample of what this person's battle strategy is? That could have been really powerful, along with keeping that same tone. But then I think you could have ballooned like the time, and they probably don't. That's too much content for 45 minutes. So in a dream world, when we make it and it could be 5 hours an episode,
yeah,
we'll invite both of them on.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, sorry, that was actually unintentional. But someone like a Mac descendant, maybe we could invite on, because I think that's an important role also, is like the educational aspect.
We'll get an old grizzled Jeff Damelin.
Yeah.
Who will be like a season 7 Han Solo, or an episode 7 Han Solo.
Right. You know, the guide to the new generation. Now, I do want to tackle the second question as well.
Yeah, vampires versus zombies. Did it basically signify the end of the show, or could they have made a season 4?
So, I mean, of course, they could have made a season 4, and I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't blame Vampires vs. Zombies for killing Deadliest Warrior. It was a symptom of the disease.
Yes. Yeah.
So, you look at Deadliest Warrior, and you think of it as infinite possibilities of like, oh, there's so many different warrior cultures, individual warriors, and they put them in the
Mm-hmm.
sim, and it seems like limitless. But then you go through the motions and you find out that it's way more limited than even I would think in terms of what you can do. You're running out of warriors in season 3, and really, if you're focusing on just historical and not jumping the shark at all, like there's really not that many warriors that are left over, and I don't want to see any comments about Blargon Guma from the 7th Ming Dynasty that is like super sick. They need warriors that people have heard of, okay? I'm sure there's all kinds of
Yes.
people with cool stories that you want to add in, but like
Yeah.
in terms of mass appeal that the average idiot like me would know, that they ran out of warriors, okay? So
Yeah, and I have to agree with you, Craig, because of course the audience that's going to be watching this video is probably those history buffs who are going to know, like, oh, I could have come up with 1,000 more
yeah.
matchups for Deadliest Warrior. But you are right in that you always go back to square one, right? Always start back. Spartan versus Ninja.
Mm-hmm.
That has a certain mass appeal to it. That,
Peanut butter and jelly, chocolate, peanut butter.
Anybody can watch that. You know, anybody theoretically can sit down and be like, Spartan versus Ninja. Okay, like I'm interested.
Opinion.
I'm interested. Like what, and it does breed an instant opinion, even if you don't know the format of the show in your mind. Like, well, you're either someone who's being like, well, the Spartan's big and he's got armor, or you're being like, well, the ninja is like stealthy and he's got martial arts, so of course he's going to win. And you lose that when you start to get into more niche historical figures. And when I say niche, unfortunately, a lot of people don't. I mean, there's a lot of people who are completely clueless on a lot of history. So you'd be surprised at how quickly something becomes, the name recognition becomes smaller and smaller.
Yeah. And the concept, though, it's a shame because if you look at something like Death Battle, which we've talked about that as an important, descendant of Deadliest Warrior, proves that the concept of two warriors fighting and you doing tests, obviously can't do authentic tests in Death Battle, has a lot of legs. But like, was Deadliest Warrior, was there going to be like werewolves and fairies and like it's hard to like they could have maybe done a fantasy season, I guess, but then you're getting away from the point of the show. And I don't know if I'm not sure what the ratings were. I imagine that they were at least okay, but there's not that many more matchups to keep sustaining it. So to answer the question succinctly, I do think that Vampires vs. Zombies was a symptom of the disease, and they just kind of ran out of warriors.
I think it's not the cause, but I think it's a very poetic, like signifier of why the show ends after that episode, because of what you said, Craig, in that they have run out. Now, obviously, like you said, it could be that the producers wanted to move on to other things, or that the show was costing more than it was paying out. That can always happen. But Vampires vs. Zombies gives you the indicator that like they're running out of ideas. And they saved this episode for the last episode because it is signifying a pivot that's gonna happen if there's a Deadliest Warrior season 4, which I think looks like a much more different show than the previous seasons. Season 3 itself is very different, and I think the reason for that is the same problem, in that they're running out of these general mass appeal figures like samurais and Spartans and pirates, and they're having to pivot to historical, like specific names, like George Washington and Joan of Arc, and okay, people have heard of these people, but they're specific, so let's change the format of the show a little bit. Season 4, at what point is it no longer Deadliest Warrior? You know what I mean? Because if you got Optimus Prime fighting Yoda,
yeah,
like, what the hell, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I could talk about that all day, but I think we kind of hit the nail on the head there. So thank you, Weirzy, for the questions. Next up, we got a friend of the show, Al Alamein. Excuse me, I'm freaking cough today, man. Is there any DW future on your channel after the podcast reaches the end of season 3? I know that as far as the show's content is concerned, you guys have scrutinized just about everything there is to analyze. Personally would find it neat if you guys did an episode trying an original matchup with new warriors that you guys want to see, and theory crafting your own edges and ultimate outcome. He then goes on to compliment us a little bit, so thank you, buddy. But he was just basically wondering if we'd like to do something similar to that for his first question. And I can take the lead on this one if you want, Craig.
Sure.
We've certainly, we've thought about it. I don't know if that's really where our strengths would be, I would love to give Lucas a warrior and watch him, give him a week, and then watch him argue for an hour about why his character
Jean Valjean.
Yeah, right. Jean Valjean from Les Mis.
Yeah. Versus the Greatest Showman.
2, 4, 6, so So yeah,
he would. I think he'd have a lot of fun arguing that, but
he'd be going nuts. Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely fun that could be had there. I don't know if it's really where our strengths lie or our passions really. I mean, not to turn around and kiss too much booty here, but a lot of doing this show has introduced me to the Deadliest Warrior wiki community and the alternate battles and stuff that have come on there. And I mean, you guys have done it way better than we could do it probably. I just out and out, I don't think any of us are lazy, but I don't I could see me wait until the day before to just be Wikipediaing, Brendan would probably come in and win every battle that he represents, because Brendan would come in with books,
right?
Be well,
I read Les Miserables.
I read Les Mis. I didn't just listen to it on Spotify. Yeah.
I'll be like, Brendan, I read the Wikipedia summary of the movie. But yeah, what I would like to do, we have some ideas. I would love to do an episode tier list. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I would love to obviously talk about the autopsy of Deadliest Warrior. I think the one thing I would like to do, if I could come up with maybe a good idea, a good format, is a more some type of filmed, not podcast style video. We'll probably get into this more later in the Q&A of kind of what we want to do. I would just be hesitant to have all of our content turn into the Deadliest Warrior podcast, but this other thing where we're just sitting around, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. So I would love to do some type of criticism or something that people trying to, I hate to say it, but remember Deadliest Warrior? On almost that type of video. I'd want to do something that could like separate us, obviously, because we've gone so in depth. But
Craig, you mean those videos that do 10 times better than our videos on viewership and stuff?
Well,
that
honestly,
one channel, and you're watching this probably right now, that steals our shit.
All I'm gonna say,
puts it in like a 10-minute compilation.
All I'm gonna say, look at the upload date of Spartan versus Spartan versus Ninja and his first Deadliest Warrior video. That's all I'm gonna say. No, I'm just kidding.
The evidence is all there.
Right. Truthfully, not necessarily piggybacking off of that, but that style of like video. If I could find a way to separate ourselves and do something that doesn't already exist about Deadliest Warrior, I would love to. But the idea has to like come to me. But we're not historical experts, but we may just be Deadliest Warrior experts.
I argue that I don't even know what I want to say. I would argue that for me, I've always framed it in that I have a disease, I have an illness, I've contracted Deadliest Warrior.
It's not a very competitive community in terms of Deadliest Warrior experts.
Yeah.
But yeah, something like that could channel everything we know about the series. But the thing with Prom Deadliest Warrior 2 is that there's always an expiration date. Even if we were to try to make more podcasts, eventually like the returns are going to start diminishing very quickly. So not ruling it out. It would just be very hard to continue a podcast style thing.
So LL Main's second question is, if you guys as theoretical showrunners could add one additional host to the DW lineup of medical doctor, computer programmer, and biomedical engineer, what kind of profession would you pick and why? Assuming the goal is to enhance the accuracy and validity of the show. So I answered ahead of time, so I'll give you some time to think. So I have two. For enhancing the accuracy and validity of the show, I was inspired by the fact that Amazon, for some reason, lists Deadliest Warrior as a documentary, which I always thought was funny. But I thought it would be interesting to have like a producer critic kind of as like on the show. So like, in like an investigative documentary where someone is sitting down with someone who was there and they're asking questions, right? And they can ask follow-up questions. They can dig a little bit, like almost like an investigative journalist to a degree. Something like that, I think, could keep the show at better faith a little bit. Like someone who is, obviously you'd have to balance it out and make sure it flows. But if you got like a producer whose goal is to make, the show good or more accurate, basically, then they wouldn't be working against the show. They'd be working like with the show to ask questions and to push like experts sometimes. I know that the problem with that is the show is, mostly manned by like stunt actors and stuff pretending to be experts. But I'm acting in good faith here. My second opinion was for if you're just going with the WWE, like this is not to improve the accuracy. This is just to like improve entertainment value. I think so. The show has hosts. I think it would be funny for the show to have an MC, because the MC of the show is kind of the 300 guy, right? Like the Ninjato. Up next, he's going to shoot the Yumi bow. If you had like an over-the-top MC almost, who's like, all right, man, what I want to see is the Ninjato go through that mother blanking pig right there. Am I right, folks? Like
have a crowd.
I guess, yeah. I'm almost thinking of like LL Cool J or somebody, just like who
from
is
Wild and Out.
Like emceeing and hyping the crowd up, and that would make for a completely different kind of show, but it would be really funny, I think.
Right.
What do you think, Greg?
So I'll also answer kind of with both prompts. terms of who would increase the accuracy, I would say a polygraph examiner. Be the
Fair enough.
the first one. Could you imagine in the aftermath? He's sitting there in like a little corner, and he's like, lie. Well, no. So it is assuming everybody's telling the truth. This might be a weird comparison. I'm not sure what profession this would be, but you think of, I was in a Star Wars kick. Admiral Thrawn's whole thing is he talks about art. You can see a lot about the culture of you learn a lot about how the civilization is through their art and how things are designed. So obviously not analyzing their art, but more about the weapons, why they're designed the way that they are could be a cool story. Because whenever you hear Dave Baker or one of these people talk about, here's why this was like this, because they only had this resource, but they did the most with it that they could. That type of archaeologist or whatever, that would be an interesting role that I think could add a lot to the show.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Like an art anthropologist or archaeologist or something.
Right.
And then like weapons, someone who's actually a weapons expert, not
not like an actor.
Yeah.
And the person that the role that I think they would add to the more, spikeness is they got to add a hot chick.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. For Spike TV, you got a LL Cool J, and then it's the lip sync battle formula where you have like LL Cool J and Chrissy Teigen. It's like the hosts.
But they write her dialogue, so she's like the stereotypical like woman that like she's like, "What is this? Is this a purse?" And then they could be like, "You're so dumb." Like,
right.
That would be that dynamic, super like misogynistic.
And she gets to decide the edge, but like instead of having Jeff shoot the AR and the AK, they're like, we're gonna have Ferrari shoot the AR and the AK, and she, and at the end she's sitting there and she looks back and she's like, "How was that, boys?" And the camera pans in on on Jeff, and he's like, "I think I'm in love."
No, they have an even test. They got like two guns, and they're like, "All right, Ferrari, you're the tiebreaker. What do you say?" I'm gonna go with that one because that one's bigger and size matters. And they're gonna be like, and then the host will be like, "You heard it here, folks."
You heard it here, folks.
So that's my dream for season 4. Deadliest.
We're coming up with like the worst version of the show. There's like laugh tracks and like fake audience cheers.
And then there's a jam. There's a jam. They're like, "Oh."
The audience chanting for their warrior. Taliban, Taliban, Taliban. This is the worst show. This is what's going to happen when we...
ISIS.
So, last question from El Alamein is, what's been your favorite kill in the reenactments that you've covered up to this point? And related to that, what makes for a good, engaging battle reenactment, in your opinion?
Okay.
Like, in an episode. So, I have some specifics written down. I tend to think... So, I tend to think the funnier is usually the better. Not necessarily... I guess it's very subjective to my own personal opinions, right? Because I would say, some stuff is a little over the top, goofy, but basically they're working with a small budget, right? And I don't think anything is like, they don't have Zack Snyder on set, they don't have $100 million, right? they're working with what they got, and I don't think anything is lamer than like trying to make someone in a Spirit Halloween costume look epic, right? So just to cite a couple specifics that I had written down, I wrote about the Taliban guy getting blown up by his teammates' RPG came to mind. Especially they do like a funny zoom in where he's like, oh, yeah. And actually relating to the zoom in on the oh shit face, I wrote down in Back for Blood the Sega shotgun headshot.
That's going to be mine. I like that will. I'm trying to think of other ones, but that honestly will not leave my brain.
Yeah, where that guy turns around and is like, he's like, and then his head explodes.
Watermelon.
Like fucking watermelon. Yeah. I think I wrote down one other one too. What did I say here? Oh, I also just commented on the ninja doing an unnecessary front flip in the Spartan vs. Ninja episodes, where where he's on the tree stump and he goes, and they speed up the footage. It's almost like playing into the camp of it is like what I enjoy. And I honestly, the first kill that came to my mind was the one Scott came up with in the Musketeer episode, where that episode should have ended with the Ming warrior coming up doing this with the sword, the Dao, and the Musketeer just pulling out the wheel-lock and shooting.
Right. That would have been poetic.
It's right there. And I guess that tone, that kind of style, I always enjoy in the reenactments, because I just don't think they have like the budget or the direction on set to make it look like, like I love historical dramas and stuff. Like I love the movie Troy, I think looks really awesome with all the fighting action scenes. And, I've watched a lot of historical movies for this podcast. And, there's a ton of stuff that can look really epic and badass. And I'm sure that's what some people want with the show. But I just don't think they have the resources or maybe even the talent on set to do that. So it's like, just give me something a little campy and funny, a little wink wink, basically. So that's my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And although I think what is super important, and this is true with most things in life, right? And cinema, if you could call it that, is a clear narrative. I think objectively the greatest aftermath is CIA versus KGB, because obviously there's like weirdly way higher production value in that one.
Yes.
But there's a nonverbal narrative you can follow. What helps sometimes too is having a main character that like, you don't notice but your brain does. Like the Musketeer guy, and like I think there's a even though he dies, is the Medellin, there's a main character for that. So that gives your brain something to latch onto, and it's not just like action figures banging together. Now, that's not to say that, like, obviously with the hero generals, there's clearly a main character there that's going to survive till the end. But for those, it's almost like what makes a good general aftermath is different than what makes a good just, no name aftermath. And for the generals, I mean, there's really not too many that I enjoy.
When you say aftermath, do you mean reenactment?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I just like the word. I like the word aftermath.
I figured, yeah, aftermath.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's tough. There's not really too many that I like. I mean, I prefer the one-on-ones, to be honest. I understand why they're 5v5, but yeah, I think just a clearer story, and like whenever they're just in a field and people are dying, there may be some cool moments, but you just forget about it. So the season 2, I think, is when the reenactments peaked, and because usually there's a clear story. So,
all right, well, we can move on to Flash Fox Foals questions. So first question here, we got, if you could interview anyone on your show, DW related or not, who would it be? On that note, Robert Daly interview when?
Wow. Well, I'll say this. I'll try to think of something that's good for the channel, not just like, I don't know, Dua Lipa. Like to interview
so you can
her.
Try to get her number. Like.
Yeah. But in terms of someone that I think would be good for the channel, I mean, Robert Daly is the obvious answer. Maybe we should think of somebody else besides him. But I would love to have the trial of Robert Daly. I think that would be big.
Trial of Robert Daly. I think we've been having the trial of Robert Daly.
It's like the roast of Robert Daly.
The prosecution's point of view only.
Right. Yeah, he needs to defend himself.
Yeah.
The other person I think would be super helpful, besides a Deadliest Warrior editor, would be another one, because I have so many fascinations with how the show is put together. I would love to talk to Kieran, because I want to know about the aftermath, specifically like why they are so ruthless towards themselves. I've never seen a show. If you think of like Talking Bad or like The Talking Dead or whatever with Chris Farley, whatever the fuck his name.
Chris Soft Candle.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking the Mega 64 bit.
Oh yeah.
Where they were doing a Chris Hardwick parody, and Sean comes out and he's like, "I'm Chris Soft Candle," and I didn't get it at first because they always do like weird names for their last names, and then I just like lost it halfway through the video because I was like, "God damn it!"
Right. Well, if you think about him, like if they're gonna ask a question, understandably so, it's gonna be a little bit of a softball. Like there's several times Kieran's just like, "So why is the sim fake?" Or just like people that are pissed at the show, he'll still read their comments. So I'd love to be like, what was the basis? And quick story I gotta tell before you answer about Kieran.
Yeah.
So to open the door with Kieran, I was just on a cruise recently. And, you know, Kieran, I'm not sure how well known this is. His job now, he's a brand ambassador for Macallan, I believe it's pronounced, Scottish whiskey, or not whiskey, it's a Scotch. Some type of liquor. Either way, he's a brand ambassador now. And I saw it on the menu. They had like a flight of it. I was like, oh shit, I gotta try this. So I got the flight and I tagged Kieran. I was like, what did I say? I said something like, "Thanks so much for the recommendation, boss," or something like that. And I was like, all right, this is gonna be the bridge to get it. He did like it, which was good. So I did get a human interaction from Kieran Elliott. Yeah. I don't know how far that got us in the grand scheme of things, but I was a little drunk because it was a cruise, and I was like, you know, fuck, I'm gonna shoot my shot with Kieran Elliott. Yeah, so that's my Kieran story, and I would bring that up to him. I'd be like, "Hey, remember when I tagged you in my story?"
Yeah, like, "Hey, Kieran." Yeah,
we go way back.
Kieran would be cool. Obviously, we've batted around Jeff and Armand before. You know, thought about getting them. I guess it's just never transpired or anything.
Because we haven't really asked yet.
Now, as far as the Robert Daly thing goes, yeah, we have not asked Jeff or Armand. So I guess we could put it out there if we felt like we wanted to. But you know, the Robert Daly thing, like, I don't want to just be cyberbullying him. But if he did want to come on our show, I would like to have this put into writing here. For the record, I would treat him fairly and friendly. So,
right.
Yeah, I would not. I might ask some pushing questions a little bit because I want some answers, but I would not, you know, be maybe quite as ruthless as we've been to him sometimes on the regular show.
Right. And he should believe you. You know why? Because when it comes to first impressions, we would never lie, and neither would he. We would never misrepresent ourselves to get like a advancement opportunity or anything like that. I don't think he would either. So I think it's only right that we both are completely transparent. And maybe there'll be some misunderstandings. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
well, I'd also just like to be able to get an interview with, and I don't even know who this would be really, but whoever the producer is that's making things happen on set, because that interview with we covered this a little bit ago on the season 1 wrap up episode. We covered the interview. Oh gosh, the YouTube name is escaping me, and the guy who got interviewed, but he essentially worked on set as like the set designer for Deadliest Warrior, and he did some of the weapons tests. And that interview,
Thane Thrawn.
Yes, Thane Thrand interviewed this guy, and that interview was pretty interesting. I think it would be interesting. I want to get a look in like the back room. I want like the spill all contents like interview. You know what I mean? Where
because that dude was bitching about like
someone can come in and just be like, yeah, so and be like, so what happened like with. Why did these two warriors get matched up, or why did you decide for this warrior to win? And I want like a suit to basically be able to give us a straightforward answer where they're like, yeah, so we thought this would play better to, an audience if we did this, so we balanced it out, and that's kind of the fuckery that was going on.
Gary Tarpinian probably be him.
So is that him, or the one time he was on, I almost got the vibe from Mr. Tarpinian that he was like the money, like he threw the money at the project and got it made.
He's an interesting character because what stuck out to me and why I think he
like
might be that guy,
like an owner of a football team, like how he may be involved, but like how involved is he? You know what I mean?
The fact that, if you remember when he was in the Aftermath, he was begging the people watching to get their friends to go watch it as well. Like, tell a friend about it and tell them to go watch it. That, to me, is a guy who desperately wants his show to stay on the air. No, maybe not. I don't want to call him desperate, but like somebody that really has a lot behind this, isn't just like a financial...
Has some personal passion.
Right. Right. So I think that he might be that guy. That being said, I don't know where he is. I don't think he would maybe want to come on the show, but he could maybe give some insight. Also, to Max, he's cordial. He's a gentleman. We love him. He's not going to disparage the name of Deadliest Warrior. That guy in Thane's interview, he was bitching about the set, like the conditions on set. There was like a union issue or something.
Right.
I want to hear all about that. Like the NDA's got to be... I mean, they're probably like indefinite, but some of them might not be.
Yeah.
I need to hear the dirt.
The dirt was the word. Those were the words that were going through my mind.
Right.
I want to hear the dirt behind the scenes. What's the good here? How were things decided? Because that interview with Thane Thrand is so eye opening, and like that, you see how slapped together some of this shit was. And some of the tricks they use that we've watched this stuff, how many hours of this show, and we never pick up on it.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched Mafia vs. Yakuza how many times, and I never realized that it is him shooting the guns in some of those scenes. Mm-hmm. And when you go back and watch for it, you see him in a hoodie. Like, there's no expert dressed like that. Like, it is clearly another guy. So I don't know. I just found that very interesting. So something like that almost interests me. Yeah, Robert Daly, you're welcome on, dude. Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. I know you've said you're considering posting more gaming content in the future. I think you guys would be great to see play something co-op like Gears of War, or competitive and social like First Class Trouble, just some examples. So Craig, I'll let you take the lead because you and Dan are sort of you do most of the video game streaming, it seems, for our channel and such.
Yeah, I don't think it's a lot of fun. I look for I want to look for a game that we can all kind of get behind and be really passionate about. Um, so some examples, we've been playing Siege a lot more lately. That would be fun.
Has that made a resurgence in our group?
I'll be honest, I'm kind of having fun with it.
Wow, Siege is...
it took like 10 years, but I finally am kind of enjoying it.
Dude,
mainly because I think
we were serious. Like we were playing Siege like every day for like 2 years, and then we haven't played it for like the last 8. It feels like
I enjoy. I think because we're getting play slow because we haven't played in so long, but then I enjoy getting carried. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So that's something that is on the mind. I think where we're at, I'm not sure if it'd be better served to stream it or attempt to do some type of filmed video. So I think we're trying to feel out what might be best. I'm definitely probably more, I don't say comfortable with editing, but I like having the control and being able to polish something. But at the same time, that takes a lot longer and it's not as snappy. So,
and it's almost, streaming is so big now. I don't know if any of us are really behind some of the just like holding the laser pointer for the cat kind of tricks that you have to use in streaming to keep people glued to the screen. With an edited video, you can sort of cut out the fat and put the good stuff in there for people to watch,
Yeah.
Not that we do that much with our podcasts, but you know what I mean? For like playing a session of Siege or something, there might be a lot of dead air or a lot of time that it's just something not epic is happening. And if you don't have, large breasts, or if you're not, doing some kind of on-screen antics, it can be hard to keep people focused sometimes. I don't know. I'm not that old, but I'm kind of a boomer with Twitch. You know what I mean? I'm kind of like, it's beyond me almost.
Yeah, I do enjoy streaming though. When people, a lot of people come out for like the KOTOR. Of all the games, KOTOR is like the one that we get the most viewers on, which is like
hilarious.
Yeah. But obviously KOTOR ain't bringing in all the Zoomers. So, but yeah, I think at this stage with like streaming, and we're kind of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. So look forward to more of that.
I would like to put out there that the Xenu clan, as it were, we are just going to put out there world-class Gears of War players. I don't think I'm stepping too far saying that, right, Craig?
Well,
we're kind of pretty damn good at the game, and
10 years ago, you didn't want. We would shut down. We would shut it down in Gears 2.
I would say Gears 2, but we had a run on Gears 4, man. You remember we would get on there, and
I don't remember being ever good at Gears 4, to be honest with you.
I have some recorded footage on my Xbox that says otherwise. There's some good stuff. I'm just putting it out there. We had some good times on Gears. I think.
You know what we've been playing? I don't know if you caught it. We have unironically been playing Beast Mode on Gears 3, and it's like actually really fun. So we've been debating streaming that, actually. Maybe by the time this comes up,
is that similar to Horde mode?
It was in Gears 3. It was the mode where you were the Locust.
Oh.
And it was timed, and there's all these different locusts you could pick. And I remember hating it when it came out because I'm like, this is so stupid, so quick. And we played it now, and we're like, ooh, this is kind of nice.
Okay. So, maybe I'll have to hop on and give it a try.
Yeah, but we're having fun with that, so that would probably be a good stream. Plus, it's low pressure. We're just fucking around on an old game we played when we were all 13.
Yeah.
So,
and I know you'll probably keep some game reviews coming. Stuff you like to do. That's just a passion of yours. So. Yeah,
I like I talked a little bit about on stream the Cyberpunk video I put out. With those, I'm still trying to find a something that works with gameplay capture. Because you think of a game like Cyberpunk, I don't really know if I want to review or say something about a game until I'm near finished with it. And so I don't always have the footage that I need. So I sometimes have to go back and like record it when I'm looking forward, which is a huge pain. But then like to avoid that, I could film everything that I play. But then it's like you'll have hours and hours of footage that may or may not be notated. And it's like, do I want to notate footage that I may or may not use? So I'm trying to find a good niche for gameplay stuff where it's not going to take as long. So, but I really was happy with that Cyberpunk video. I did better than I thought. Normally I would do like those gaming videos and it would take hours, like so many hours to like put out, and they would legit get like 3 views. And then I'd put out,
it can be demoralizing. It's, and then you put out follow, our Planet Zoo video,
and I did that because of that, just to see the low effort what I could get, and it's crazy how it worked. But for me, I do it mainly because like I try to focus on like I want to do this, so it's not that I get discouraged. Maybe it's not the word, but I obviously want people to see it, you know. So, and it like I want the channel to grow. So if the channel's not growing, then it's like, am I
sure?
Like, who am I making it for?
I've been playing a lot of Jedi Survivor lately. That's what I've been doing, and I beat it not that long ago, and I'm close to like getting all the collectibles and all the bounties and stuff like that. And I was strongly considering doing New Game Plus afterward because I played it on like Jedi Master. I don't know if I have the wherewithal for the Grandmaster, but I was like, I'm not doing too bad at this. I could probably play this on like a stream or something. But so maybe that might be in the future. I think the biggest thing for me has been I've always like dumped so much of my focus into the Deadliest Warrior podcast and like making sure that that's organized, getting the notes for it, doing some other like Matt's Movie Corner and stuff, being able, because I hate when I have to, sometimes I'm like, look, I'm not watching this movie, right? But I hate when I have to be like, oh, there's this movie which was really good, but I didn't watch it, So I don't know. Maybe it could be in the future for me. I know that more video game streaming is in the future for the channel though. So, next question from FFF. We got, what are some future podcast ideas you guys have? I'm interested to see this new format Lucas has been teasing for the Pretty Good Pod. For other trashy 2000s TV show podcasts, I would say Next is a prime target, where every episode is identical and equally cringy and unwatchable.
So is Next that one where it's like they're on a bus and they all go on these dates, and whoever gets the furthest gets like they can either keep the money or go on a date?
Next.
It's like an MTV show.
Oh my god, I do remember that. You're explaining it to me. Clips. I remember that show.
It's painful. It's really hard to watch. Because, I mean, it's obviously, like, fake now.
Yes.
But in context, it's so uncomfortable.
From 2005. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next dealt with a contestant going on sequential blind dates with possibly up to 5 other single people known as the daters who were secluded on an RV referred to as the Next Bus.
It's like weirdly vulgar too, because they'll be like, I'm Tristan, I'm half black from the belly button down, and then like they'll just like keep talking about like their dicks. It's like it's ahead of its time in some ways, but it's so hard to watch.
The added twist was that the date could end at any time by the contestant shouting "Next."
Yeah.
Amazing.
And sometimes they would walk off the bus and they would look at them and they would yell "Next," which is like,
I remember those moments where someone just walks off and is like, "Next."
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Next is not a bad idea. I had not thought of it, but an MTV reality show is not a terrible pivot from the Deadliest Warrior. And I do like reality show trash like that on occasion. Like I watch Too Hot to Handle. On Netflix. I don't know if you know what that is, but dumb show, really stupid but very enjoyable. I've thought about, because I know we've discussed like other projects we want to do and work on, and whether or not we'd want to do another podcast, really. I liked the Pretty Creepy podcast. I did not mind that. I thought that was a lot of fun, and maybe that's I don't know. But sorry, I'm just starting to. I was acting like this was a team meeting for a second, but some shows that we've bounced, we've joked about Mansers a few times, like just trying to do other Spike TV shows because, okay, here's what I was thinking. So there's this show, there's a podcast I listen to called Pod Yourself a Gun, which is about The Sopranos. And, it's a tongue-in-cheek, like funny comedy podcast about The Sopranos. And when the show ended, they were, they took a few months off, but they were immediately able to announce their next show was going to be about The Wire. And it just made sense. And just by looking at the shows that are on HBO, you can see like other places they can pivot to after The Wire's done. You know what I mean? Like an HBO show from like the early 2000s that is a certain type of prestige TV drama. And I tried to think about that in the terms of Deadliest Warrior. And I'm just like, where the hell do you pivot from Deadliest Warrior? Because on one hand, I think it is a like historical, it's like a History Channel kind of show where it's like history entertainment. On another hand, it's a very Spike TV-esque show that's full of just goofiness and over-the-top action. So I've tried to think of, I don't know as though Mansers really foots the bill.
Here's what I think. Now, I'm not even necessarily championing Mansers, but what could be an interesting format, sort of similar to what we do now, is get the Manser, see what they say it is, and then research if it's actually true. Now, my only hesitation with that is you need to be like a fucking scientist. Like, we may not have the qualifications other than asking like Chat GPT, like, can you cut your balls off and reattach them or something like that they would answer on that show. So, you know what I just realized that I always think about? It's so fucked up. There was one Manser. It was like how to spot if the chick you're looking at a bar is actually a dude. Which in retrospective is like,
it's of its time.
Yeah, exactly. It's the best way to put it.
Yeah. A couple shows I have thought about are Bar Rescue with John Tafford.
That's a show where everything's like the same.
Yeah.
I would tell you, I was
always stupid. And dude, we could travel and we could go to everybody.
That would be fun. Dude, I almost sent you a snap. I was playing this game called City Skylines, which is like a modern Sim City. And I kept having these issues where like my water, like sewage, kept getting pumped in with my tap water. And so when that happens, like your citizens get sick or whatever, and you got to deal with it. And I saw all these little like vomit signs. And all I could think of was, people are going to get sick.
People are going to get sick. This chicken is raw.
Yeah. People are getting sick. Shut it down.
Yeah, that show, play the shit out of that show on Spike TV, and it's just the most ridiculous stuff. I don't know if you saw, there was an interview. I'm giving away material for the new podcast here, but there was an interview where John Tafford, they asked him about it being staged, and he swore on his daughter's life that there was nothing staged. He was like, I swear on my daughter's life absolutely zero about the show is fake.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
That's awesome.
Maybe he doesn't have a daughter. I don't know. But
Yeah.
another show I had thought about was and I made you and Lucas watch a few clips of this, but Mountain Monsters from the Nat
I would
Geo channel.
love to talk about Mountain Monsters. Yeah.
Mountain Monsters is, if you are listening to this video and you haven't seen Mountain Monsters, look up a couple of clips. It is basically each episode. So the whole premise of the show is there's a team of like rednecks who they're all named like Huckleberry and Popcorn and shit like that. Like, I'm not even joking. That's their names. And they have guns. And each episode, they go out into the woods with a gun and try to hunt a new, like, a particular animal, a mystical cryptid that episode. So, like, one episode, they're hunting Mothman. Another episode is the Pennsylvania Yahoo, the Stonish Giant. So there's just, and it's the type of show that it is very Deadliest Warrior, in that sometimes you really can't tell if it's fake or not sometimes, because everything about it tells you it's fake, but they're playing it so straight.
Right.
It's like,
so that, I think, is all material, and we'll have to talk about what direction we want to go. I think regardless of what we do with the future of the channel, I would like to still have some type of podcast.
I think so too. Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. I also would like to bring back S-Files, especially because it's something that I know you and Lucas are extremely passionate about.
So that's actually a good segue into Flash Fox Full's next question, which is the S-Files back when? I'd love to see more movie reviews from you guys, either reacting live or discussing afterward.
Right.
So.
And I think I love the idea of the S-Files. I liked my intro. My intro was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I like to use that intro again. But I think the biggest thing that we came away, like whenever we finished that, is it was kind of just the Deadliest Warrior podcast, but with Adam Sandler. So...
yeah.
What we would like to do, I think, is bring that concept back, but find a way we can separate it. Maybe make it more, maybe find like some type of review system that we can emulate and see something that's different than just, same format, just this is Adam Sandler.
So I always love seeing S-Files feedback. There's been a couple champions of it in the comments sections. Rest assured, Lucas and I still do get drunk and watch every effing Adam Sandler movie that comes out on Netflix. Every piece of hot garbage that gets slung out of the Happy Madison machine. And sometimes the stuff's not that bad. I don't know. But yeah, what you said, Craig, is what I had written down, where like when we walked away from it, we were like, this is very similar to the Deadliest Warrior podcast, and we wanted to figure out something else. At one point in time, we had thought about doing something like Best of the Worst, I think. Best of the Worst is a show on Red Letter Media where they cover they watch like 3 shitty B movies or something and then decide which one's the best and which one gets destroyed. And so they're intercutting footage of the film with before footage of them picking the movies and then after footage of them at a round table where they're drinking and casually joking about the movie. And that's a possible, because I know we wanted to incorporate like a ranking system in the S-Files where it was like start with like an average movie like Grown Ups and work your way up and down from there on the Sandler Files. And there's certainly enough material. I mean, just with Adam Sandler movies alone, there's like 1 million of them. So
then you have the Sandler adjacents, like what was one that we always point to? Kevin
James, and
Benchwarmers.
Yes. Rob Schneider and David Spade are all like Adam Sandler.
The Sandler sphere.
Yeah, the Sandler sphere. So I guess I can't give a definitive answer, which is what people would want. If the S-Files has a chance of coming back, I would say the most honest answer I can give is that this move happened, right? Deadliest Warrior is what we've been putting most of our effort into these last few months or since the show started. And so we've been operating off of the same system of doing things for a while. And once this show sort of wraps up, once the regular episodes wrap up and then Back for Blood and then a wrap up or any other miscellaneous episodes we might want to record, I mean, anything is really possible for us. You know what I mean? And something like the S-Files, I think is, it's going to be on the drawing board. I'll just say that. That's the most I can say. It'll be on the discussion board about, hey, can we make this work? How can we do something like this where it'll be fun and entertaining? So yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything to say more to say about the S-Files?
I'm rooting for it too.
I'm rooting for it because I had a lot of fun filming it with you guys. I want to do a damn S-Files with a better movie than Grown Ups. Because Grown Ups is like such a mom and dad comedy.
Uncut Gems.
Yeah, Uncut Gems, or also in the other direction, getting like Little Nicky. Just a movie that is just so bizarre. So last question from Fox. Even if you're further separated and meeting in person is inconvenient, would you consider doing online podcasts over Zoom or something related? Well,
this is how I answer that question.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep it short. Yeah, I don't think we'd let the distant, if we have ideas or passions for something for the channel, I don't think we're going to let not being able to be in the same room, stop it. So, all right. Our last set of questions come from MK Demigodzilla Warrior, who has been around for quite some time in our, I think he's all the way back from season 1. He's been watching and commenting, I think. So, and I'm sure he was happy to hear some updates about the aftermath.
Yeah.
Because he's been waiting. So, yeah, I'm doing it. Yeah. The Back for Blood. So rest assured, Godzilla, I know it's been delayed. It's been delayed longer than we would have wanted it to be, but a Back for Blood episode is coming for you. So, and I didn't mean that to sound ominous, or maybe I did.
Yeah.
I
think it's kind of a fun way to look at it. It's coming for you.
So, number 1, first question. If you were to remake any episode of Deadliest Warrior, which episode would it be, or would it be an entire season? Do you have any immediates, Craig? Or I have a couple prepared here.
I don't have any immediates. Let me hear yours.
So I kept it simple. I would either remake Alexander the Great versus Attila the Hun, or Roman Centurion versus Rajput. I think there's room for improvement. It's like what I wrote in my notes. I don't like those episodes. I think there's a lot of really obvious, glaring problems with them. But I see a lot of potential. I think it could be good. Like, yes, on one hand, my warrior lost, so maybe I'm just being bitter and I want to see a different outcome. But seriously, from an objective point of view, I think those episodes have potential to be a lot better and more entertaining than they are. Especially the Alexander episode, I think, is such a mess. that I would love to see it cleaned up and done a little bit more justice, because he's like the main character of that episode and they get everything about him wrong. And then they don't nearly give us enough about Attila, and his life. So those are the 2 episodes I would redo. Now, as far as seasons go, if I had the budget or the influence, I would redo the whole damn show. All right. And maybe some false confidence here, but I think we would be able to learn from the old show, bring back some of the people who worked on it, and some new blood in. I think we can make it really, really good. So that's my pitch to Paramount or whoever owns the Deadliest Warrior license at this point in time.
Right. I'm looking through and seeing something that jump out at me. I mean, probably, I think there was a lot of wasted potential in Alexander the Great versus Attila the Hun. That's definitely a big one. I mean, just eyeballing this, I think that's probably what I would pick.
Yeah. Not Spartan versus Ninja?
No, because like that started it all, baby. Right. Obviously I wish the outcome was different. But like that's Abbey Road. That's Avengers. That's The Greatest Showman. That's like the pinnacle of the art form. So could you tell? I just watched a video with that guy in it.
The Gary Tarpinian's magnum opus,
right?
Spartan versus Ninja,
right? Well, I'll talk about the guy. I saw him in another video. The what are your favorite films? He goes, The Avengers, followed by The Greatest Showman.
I do remember that.
I saw that again, and now that's why The Greatest Showman's on my mind. That's
like another pod. That's the kind of pod. The podcast that comes from is the kind we're looking to avoid becoming. Because I remember we talked about, I know we already did this question, but we talked about doing an April Fool's video where we were going to announce our next podcast is going to be The Mandalorian. It's like, there aren't enough Star Wars podcasts.
Right.
So we are bringing boys. We're going to be talking about Baby Yoda.
Who were called the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
The Jedi Order podcast.
I will be wearing a helmet the entire time. I won't remove the helmet for the show.
Right.
Yeah. So, number 2. What are your plans for the podcast after doing season 3? Well, we want to complete season 3, and I know we have like a few miscellaneous episodes, like Back for Blood, like a wrap up, like maybe a potential the Robert Daly interview, whatever.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, we sort of touched on different things, different feelers. And I think just to sum it up, we're trying to throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks, to see what non-Deadliest Warrior stuff we can make and help the channel grow.
And I know that some people, and it's been sad to think about, because we thought about it at the beginning when we first started getting people watching our podcast, because like when we first recorded, we were like, nobody's gonna ever see this, so it doesn't matter. But once people started watching, it was always kind of like, we're gonna hit a point where we stop covering, like we run out of Deadliest Warrior.
There was always an expiration date.
It's gonna be sad, but you'll always have the episodes, obviously, and that's not to say we won't, pop up here and there with maybe a Deadliest Warrior anecdote or something. But I think once we've squeezed all I feel that we can out of the show, and maybe can is not the right word, maybe want to is really how I feel about it. Because we started this just as a passion project, and I kind of want to see it just end that way. Like, hey, we covered the show in its entirety. We talked about some stuff relating to the show, and let it end there. I've never wanted it to become a thing where it's like, samurai in my backyard.
Yeah.
This big red circle or whatever. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how much we got left for Deadliest Warrior, but it's we still have a lot left to go. I have to keep reminding everybody too, because people keep asking, like you guys even and stuff. It's like, what are we gonna do when it's over? And it's like, guys, we have so much left.
Right.
Vampires versus zombies alone. So, I don't know. Did you want to say anything on that, Craig? Or
no? I mean that pretty much covers it, I think.
Will there be a made-up Back for Blood episode for Season 3 Warriors, like you guys did with Season 2? Not to hog the microphone, I have a succinct answer for this, though, and maybe you have a different opinion, Craig. I have foreseen a Back for Blood Season 3 being not like there being one, but it not being a standalone episode. Because I don't think Season 3 meshes as well with the previous seasons. I don't think it carries over as well. And, theoretically speaking, if you had a matchup where the Spetsnaz fight the Green Berets, right? And then you have another matchup where the Spetsnaz fights a U.S. military entity. And then you have a third matchup where you either have a Spetsnaz fighting a military entity or a U.S. military entity fighting another U.S. military entity. I'm sure, that's not a huge revelation for people who have thought about it. But how much do we have to say, really, about something like that? And yeah, so I see it being tucked into like a Season 3 wrap up, actually, like just tucking it in there and being like, here's our Back for Blood thoughts, and letting it be there,
right?
Like that. Sorry, lost track here. Okay. If there happens to be a Season 4, what would you guys like to see for the first matchup? So I'm thinking, like, I don't know if he's talking about rebooting. I think he they might have meant to say, like, if there was a Season 4 was the first matchup, or if it was rebooted, like, where would you like to see it start off? And my answer actually is Master Chief versus Arbiter. And Craig remembers in high school when Halo 3 was like the biggest game out there. We actually did a little Deadliest Warrior thing amongst our friends where we did Spartans versus Elites, and we tested like the different weapons in Halo. We did like battle rifle versus Covenant carbine, assault rifle versus plasma rifle, etc. And we tested it out in Forge mode. And then we actually had two different sides, and they fought in a custom Forge map with just those weapons scattered around. And then I went through in theater mode afterward and counted the kill totals for all of the weapons. And we did a Spartan versus Elites, and we did a ODST versus Brutes as well. And both were a ton of fun. And fuck it, they can run it on the Halo 3 engine. I don't even care. Like, just to do what we did, I think it would be a lot of fun.
1,000 times, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a warrior that I would like to see in like Season 4 from 10 years ago. But what I would love when we remake it, that is Warrior Season 4 2027. I think the perfect matchup for the first episode, Spartan versus Ninja. Because listen, you come back to basics and you say, look, we
All right,
we,
look.
we yeah, all right, look. We love the past. We love the old show. But depending on what the mission statement is, if it's like transparency or whatever, we're going to redo this and we're going to reevaluate it and give it a fair shakedown. To be fair, if any episode is probably legitimate, it was probably that one because it's so different and it's like the pilot or whatever. But I would love for that to be like, okay, this is a love letter to the fans, but we're going to remux it, redux it, whatever you want to call it. I think that would be a great redo episode.
Also, I mentioned earlier Optimus Prime versus Yoda. I don't know. Does Optimus squish him like a bug? Or does Yoda, use the Force and jump up and cut his head off or whatever? I don't know. Yeah. Can a lightsaber go through Cybertron metal? Is that what it's called?
We have a truck and we have a lightsaber from KB Toys.
So, question 5. Seeing as you guys don't entirely like season 3, now, hey, come on now. Do you think it would have been better had it stuck to the same format as seasons 1 and 2? You want to take this, Craig?
I mean, I think season 3 is definitely better than I remembered. I think that we might have been a little reactionary whenever we were younger and it first came out. And I don't know. I mean, I think it's a fair thing to ask. Is if it would have been better if we kept the format. I imagine there was something like a big reason that they always cite, I feel like, for the format change was more transparency. Now, theoretically, if they delivered that, I think they may have realized that you cannot have the high entertainment and as well as the transparency. But they're constantly catering in season 3 to fans, like the hardcore history fans, that wanted, oh, you got this wrong, you got that wrong. And that was probably their downfall. And if season 3 was like season 1, I don't know if it would have saved it. So I would say no. I'd be interested to watch that. But it was, I think the tensions were pure with, well, maybe not pure, but they were good with season 3.
Yeah. I'll say, I wrote actually an answer down here that I actually liked. So, the show wasn't perfect in 1 and 2 by any means. And season 3 actually makes some good changes that I do enjoy, that I do like. And the changes that it makes that I don't like, I think a lot of them are actually less a problem of concept and more a problem of execution. Similar to what you said, Craig, they were going for transparency. Well, if that's what they were really going for, they really failed because the show feels more dishonest even in season 3, I would say. And I think that's why we get so... Maybe that's why it comes off that we hate season 3 so much. Because we just get pissed off at it. And I would say it's because it feels like, I don't know, it feels somehow more disingenuous, than the previous seasons, because it's trying to put that coat of like, oh, but look, we're looking at tactics and we're looking at X factors and we're doing all this stuff that you nerds wanted us to do. But then we're not going to tell you like how many kills a particular weapon got. We're not going to really go into depth on this X Factor stuff. Like, is there an intuition X Factor for every warrior? Because I think it's pretty clear that there's not. But that's what they keep saying anytime they're asked that question directly. I think it's pretty clear that those X Factors are one and dones for that particular episode based on the narrative. Yet it's played as though, and then they go into like season 1 or 2 aftermath. Max Geiger is like, Yeah, I was told not to take terrain into account. Season 3, Robert Daly, or Armand, I think is the one that does it, is like, well, actually every single environment is tested.
Simultaneously.
You see that on Robert Daly's like his green screen computer monitor. And it's like, that is such an obvious lie. Like there's no way it's doing that. Like, and why would it make sense to even do that? Right? Like, you don't need to have Napoleon and Washington fight in, a volcano, right? Like,
yeah,
you would just need like one fight in maybe a northeastern American forest, and then another fight in like a plain in Western France or something. Uh, you know, so it's not really that I don't like season 3. I think they failed on a lot of they failed to stick the landing on a lot of stuff they wanted to do. And as far as better, I mentioned earlier, I think the format change actually mostly came in part from the fact that they were running out of warriors and they had to pivot to more named historical figures.
Generals that aren't, maybe you wouldn't look at as a warrior.
Yeah. And if you watch season 2, like Vlad versus Sun Tzu, it's kind of a joke. Like the episode is so stacked. It's kind of a joke. Like nothing that would give Sun Tzu an edge is remotely accounted for. Like it might be mentioned offhand, like, but he's doomed from the start. And when they were pivoting to these more historical named figures, it's like, well, what can we do to mitigate that? Right? So you come up with some of the ideas that you have for season 3, plus you take stuff from the message boards that fans are clamoring for. You try to make it all work. It's hard to know. It's hard to know if there's any way the show could have been saved, right? Looking on the outside, we might be able to armchair it, but I'm sure the people behind the scenes who were getting paid to do this stuff probably did care about the show and were probably trying to keep it alive. But, my short answer, my TLDR, is blame Robert Daly.
Right.
It's all his fault.
I agree.
So his follow-up question to that is, if it did stay in the format of seasons 1 and 2, which matches would you think would have been drastically altered? And I would just say, in short, the historical figures. I think that's why you saw most of the changes that you did. And picture George Washington versus Napoleon, but done
1v1.
Done like Vlad versus Sun Tzu, where George is firing a cannon at I don't think it makes it better.
Oh, well, you know what I think
easiest
is Joan of Arc versus William the Conqueror. Because you have a 7-foot tall gorilla man versus a 16-year-old girl or whatever she was.
And yeah, Joan probably would have got pummeled. Even with her better armor, I don't know if it would have helped.
And her bipolar mania. I don't think that would help.
Her bipolar superpower.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's probably the best one, Craig. That's probably the best pick. Joan versus Will, because making it a group effort and taking something allows like a cannon to be brought in and used more effectively, as well as a crossbow, because up to that point, William just has to not get hit by the siege cannon or the crossbow. And if he can close the distance, he can get the dub. But
right.
Yeah, I think you're right, Craig. Last question from our comments here, still from MK Demigodzilla Warrior. Which of the America Must Win matches, and he is including in here like Native Americans, as well. He says, "Do you think is the American warrior uh, who really could have actually won without the blatant American bias?" So, of the U.S. warriors and the Native American warriors, like who could have won without the show just automatically checking the box?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest is probably U.S. Army Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the slam dunk. I guess Navy SEAL. I'm not as familiar with like the modern militaries, but I think Navy SEAL probably could have had it. Not as much as U.S. Army Ranger. It depends if like Mike was in the fight. If Mike was in there, then maybe not. But who else?
So I think the Apache should have beat the Gladiator, which he did. I think that's fair.
Do you think there's like a Native American bias?
Mr. Snake Blocker. Well, we've brought that up before because most of the Native Americans win as well because they are, and I think it's fair to include them in like the American audience watching, wanting to see them win, because whether it's correct or not, Americans sort of see someone like Crazy Horse as like adjacent to American culture. So I think the Apache definitely could beat the Gladiator, especially since they're fighting in like an open field and not in a gladiator ring. Just scanning through the warriors in my head, Mafia, Yakuza, like that in my mind is in reality like a toss up. Like it depends.
Are we counting the Nazis because they fought the Viet Cong? and Pol Pot?
we won't touch those episodes, but we'd have to go through and examine
the IRA.
Because then we'd have to start talking. Yeah, like we'd have to start talking about like how much does being white incorporate into winning in the show too,
the graph of whiteness.
Like William Wallace and stuff. Like now obviously William Wallace won because of like armor and stuff, but like why was it set up that way? Right. So to answer his question, I'm trying to pull all the episodes from memory here, but I actually have a portfolio right here that has all of my scripts. So Apache versus Gladiator. I think Apache for the third time could have won. Pirates. Do we want to count them as Americans? I think could have beat the Knight. Mafia, Yakuza. Ironically enough, I think Green Beret could have beat Spetsnaz.
That one's a lot closer though.
Yes.
To me, I feel like
a lot of these are toss-ups in my mind,
Yeah, I think for me, North Korea, like, again, not a modern military expert, but I don't believe that North Korean special forces would really hold a candle to U.S. ones.
Right. Yeah. SWAT versus GSG-9. I think it is a toss-up. I sort of favored the GSG-9 in that episode, but I think SWAT has a chance legitimately to beat them. Jesse James versus Al Capone is, Al Capone. He might have had a shot. Friendly fire. CIA over KGB, I think, is true. Navy SEAL, like you mentioned. And then season 3. Oh, we also had the Comanche. I think a little fuckery was done there. I think the Mongol should have won. So maybe I wouldn't count that one. Season 3, we've got, in a certain scenario, George Washington might beat Napoleon, but I've talked that one to death on here.
And a slave off. That's probably the only way. It's like that meme. It's like when I'm in a having slaves competition and my opponent is George Washington. Yeah.
So Rangers definitely over North Koreans, like you say, Craig. Um, Teddy Roosevelt may be the best candidate for affirmative action, American style, on Deadliest Warrior.
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt beating Lawrence of Arabia in a 5-on-5 on neutral ground is lunacy, I think. So, yeah, so those are my opinions on literally all of them. Crazy Horse versus Pancho Villa, we haven't covered that episode yet, and I don't even know if you and Lucas know who wins that one.
I think I have an idea, but I've never watched that episode because we'll talk about it more in detail about why it's infamous, but I've never completed that episode. I don't remember anything about it.
I think Crazy Horse could win, as could Pancho Villa, because I would rank it as sort of a toss-up. They have very similar kits. That's all I'm going to say.
And French for Legion versus Gurkha, I don't even know what those are, either of them. So I don't retain any of the information from the episode. I'm sure it's not English, but Gurkha, it makes me think of like a sound a baby would make. Like whenever it's got a burp.
Well, I could tell you, but I want you to find out on your own through the episode.
Because it's going to be like watching a new episode. Because I truly have no idea who wins.
I don't want to spoil that for you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so that was his final question. I do want to say, in relation to, if like Paramount Plus or whoever owns the rights to the show reboots it, I think I can speak for everybody in saying that we will reboot the podcast to cover it in real time.
No
definitely.
Question.
On site.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a question. So
you can imagine it's like we go live. Paramount Plus just released the Warriors for season 4, Deadliest Warrior. Let's talk about them. And we would like a 9-hour live of like, okay. Fucking. Who's a Warrior from the past like 10 years?
The aughts or the 10s?
Yeah, what's a Warrior? You could have what's his name? You have Dan Blazarian versus Andrew Tate. And you're like, all right, Dan Blazarian. This came out of nowhere, but I got to go with my boy Dan. He's got the size.
But I'm trying to think of the perfect matchup is like Barack Obama versus
Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan. So Joe gets him with the spinning back kick into the liver.
And then
Harambe would be in there, right?
Yeah. And Joe Rogan would probably have a higher syphilis rating. I don't know if he has syphilis, but he's probably more likely to have it, than Brock. So
definitely.
Although I think Brock's got the height advantage. For sure. Yeah. But
he does. He's got the reach and the height, but Joe's built like
experience.
Joe's built like a thumb. So
yeah, he's got the thickness.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would we would 100% cover that if it happened. So
yeah,
I like to think it would be consultants.
I'm just saying the email's open. Paramount or whoever the hell. I think it's Paramount. Max, I think, mentioned Paramount. That's why I keep going to that. But so anyways, yeah, that was the Q&A. Thank you for sending in your questions, guys. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Now, Craig, you just never answered my first question of Jeff, Armand, Max, fuck, marry, kill.
You gotta marry Max.
Okay.
Max, I feel like would be such a good partner. I guess I don't want to kill Armand because he's a doctor, but also Jeff would be wild.
Yeah.
In the sack.
I feel like Jeff is the easy send for, taken to the bedroom for one good spin, right? Like,
yeah,
He's a firefighter. He's a paramedic. He's a black belt.
He's got to have other skills.
Yeah, a black belt. Yeah, right. So between marrying, I don't want to kill any of the original 3.
You get that doctor money though with Dorian.
I was thinking about marrying Dorian just because he's got the doctor money, and then he's never home, so I don't have to like
talk to him.
I can just be having my housewife affairs with many, many neighbors,
right.
And he's not even gonna know.
Well, now throw Robert Daly into the equation. Who you killing?
Just because we need somebody to kill,
right?
Yeah. Right. You know my answer. So,
yeah.
All right, Craig. Anything you want to say to wrap us up, man?
No, as always, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for our lives on the channel. But yeah, unless you got anything else, Matt.
No, leave us your thoughts in the comments. I mean, we always love to hear from you guys, and you guys commented the questions, we answered them, so you can comment back if you want. So.
Sounds good. And as always, my friends, stay deadly.
Stay deadly.